The most successful founders have been the ones who never let their success go to their heads. From the start of their companies, hands-on, not just with their employees and their products, but with their customers. They're the ones who go to conferences, who go to bar association meetings, who get out in the field and talk to their customers, who talk to people who aren't their customers.
From Adderant, this is Studio A, the podcast that helps legal professionals like you stay on top of trends and solutions that keep your law firm thriving. Welcome to Studio A, powered by Adderant, your insightful legal tech podcast covering all of the latest trends in legal tech. I am excited for today's episode. It's not often that you get to interview an industry veteran, and today I have Mr. Bob Ambrogi, the one and only Bob Ambrogi, on the show. Bob, how are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing really good. Thanks for doing this. I love this whole setup we have here at the conference. This is great.
We're going to have some fun today, Bob.
Okay.
Now, Bob, you've been a journalist in the legal industry for 2 decades, but we got to go back to day one. What made you want to be a journalist in the legal industry?
You know, I was actually a journalist before. I'm a lawyer and a journalist. And before I went to law school, I was a journalist.
Yep.
And I actually did something stupid, which was to go to law school to advance my career in journalism, not to be a lawyer. It was never my intention to be a lawyer. I did end up practicing law, and I've kind of gone back and forth. I still practice law a little bit, but I've always had kind of one leg in journalism and one leg in law practice throughout my career. It's actually been 3 decades. I hate to say that I've been covering legal tech.
3? Wow.
There was legal tech 3 decades ago. People always ask that. Was there legal tech 3 years ago? There was.
Now, 3 decades, that's a long time.
3 decades.
You've seen a lot. Can you talk about some of the shifts that you've seen? Because right now, I think that we're undergoing one of those shifts. But just talk about some of the things that you've seen as an industry veteran over the years.
The most dramatic shift has really been, I talk about the sort of the Venn diagram of, you think of one circle as law practice and one circle of technology. You know, when I first started writing about tech, when I first started practicing law, you could 100% practice law without ever thinking about technology. Technology was a nice to have maybe that some people used and some people didn't. And over the years, those two circles kept kind of covering over each other so that more and more technology and the practice of law became intertwined. And, you know, we are now at a point where you literally cannot practice law without understanding and using and implementing technology. You just can never survive as a lawyer today. So, I mean, the biggest shift has really been the way that technology has become so fundamental to practicing law.
I think you have a very interesting perspective because you are a lawyer and you are a journalist. And when it comes to this transformative shift that we're seeing, AI is impacting both of those verticals, I would say. Where do you see AI going within the next 2 to 3 years? Because things are moving very, very fast.
Yeah, I think AI has really been the most fundamental or significant shift in legal technology in all of my years of covering tech. Part of it is just that so much of tech has been moving toward creating efficiencies, creating automations, trying to make it easier for lawyers to get some of the more routine things that they do done so they can use their brains and focus on that part of lawyering. And AI just amplifies our ability to do all of that. You know, I was in the keynote and the product announcements this morning here at this conference, and there was a lot of talk about Agentic AI and the ability of AI to go beyond kind of performing a discrete task to being able to perform a whole series of tasks and get you from point A to point B without you having to do a whole lot, and kind of queue it up for you as you, the lawyer, to then be able to kind of execute on what the AI has done. So I think what we're going to be seeing a lot over the next year or two is really this evolution of, you know, for the last 2 years we've been talking about Gen AI. Now the focus is really going to be on this sort of the next generation of that, which is this agentic AI and what that can do in terms of transforming workflows and automations and everything else about practicing law.
Now, in our world, in the legal world, people want to know what Bob Ambrogi is talking about. because you are always ahead of the curve when it comes to news and innovation and things that are really shaping the industry. Can you tell us a little bit more about LawNext?
Yeah, and honestly, I'm just trying to keep up with the curve, let alone get ahead of it. There's so much going on. I mean, that's been one of the biggest changes in my career, has been the fact that it wasn't that long ago when I was like scraping around looking for something to write about in legal tech, and now I just can't keep up with the flood of stuff that's going on. But I mean, for me, LawNext is actually a couple of different things. I mean, I do a blog where I write about legal tech. I have a podcast, a weekly podcast where I interview the innovators and entrepreneurs who are driving what's next in law. That's the tagline. Adderant CEO Chris has been on there a couple times. I have a lot of conversations like that about where the industry is going. Part of LawNext is also we have a whole legal tech product directory, the LawNext Legal Tech Directory. And we do, my other podcast is a weekly thing we call Legal Tech Week, where a bunch of people who write about legal tech, we all get together every Friday afternoon and kind of crack open a cocktail and talk about the week that just happened.
Now, that's a lot of information, and that's a lot of conversations as well. What are some of your favorite interviews or favorite topics that you've discussed over the years?
I have done so many that it's really, really hard to say, but I do think that I like the stories sometimes behind the companies, behind the products. Often, you're talking to people who've developed products or who are somehow driving to make some change in legal, where it really comes from a personal place for them, either a problem they've encountered or something they've experienced in some way, and they get this idea that this could be better, this could be different. And when they're able to kind of develop a product and build it out of that, I think those stories are always kind of moving and interesting. So, I've been all over the place. I mean, I just did, completely out of character in a sense for my podcast, I just did an interview with 3 different legal tech kind of founders who all lost their homes in the LA fires. It just so happened that there were 3 legal tech people who were relatively neighbors in LA and lost their homes. And got them to come on and kind of tell their stories about what that was like for them. So many shows and so many interviews, and I don't need to tell you that since you already told me you're doing like 6 interviews just today. So.
Are legacy systems slowing you down? Meet the firms that broke free. In this exclusive client roundtable, hear firsthand from Adderant clients as they reveal how Expert Sierra transformed their operations, from migration milestones to measurable wins. If you're ready to accelerate your revenue cycle and unify your front and back office, this is your roadmap to a smarter practice. Head to the webinar's on-demand section at adderant.com and watch why firms are hitching their wagon to Expert Sierra today.
Speaking of founders, I find it very interesting that you sit down with founders and really take a deep dive into the ways that they're building companies and building technology. What are some of the traits that founders have that make them successful?
The most successful founders have been the ones who never let their success go to their heads. From the start of their companies, hands-on, not just with their employees and their products, but with their customers. They're the ones who go to conferences, who go to bar association meetings, who get out in the field and talk to their customers, who talk to people who aren't their customers, try and keep their fingers on the pulse of what people are feeling and thinking and saying. The ones who really stay in touch with the people they're trying to serve, the audiences they're trying to serve. I'm not going to name names here, but there have been several, founders and CEOs over the years who have just represented this kind of a mindset of customer first, people first, and you see that translate back into their companies and their products and their whole approach to the market. So I think that's, to me, the greatest mark of success, not business school or, sales dollars or anything else. It's really just that connection, I think.
Now, you've got a strong connection with the legal community just in general. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit and talk about law firms. There's a lot of innovation going on. You talked about founders building technology. You talked about speaking to President and CEO at Adderant, Chris Cartrett, driving innovation across the industry as well. What are some tips or some things that law firms should consider? Because many times new technology can kind of be like a shiny object. So any advice to law firms as they approach new technology or consider new solutions to integrate into their systems?
I think the key advice is to keep an open mind. You still talk to a lot of law firms that get very set in their ways and are reluctant to change and reluctant to even think about or consider change. I think that takes getting your hands dirty a little bit, going and try these things, experiment with new products that are out there, try and keep current with what's going on in the market. Obviously, at this conference, you're going to have a number of larger firms that have people on their staff whose job it is to keep their radar open in terms of what's coming down the pike and what the new products are. But it's funny how many law firms I talk to who just like are not even thinking about AI right now. And if you're not even thinking about it right now, I mean, I don't know where you're going to be in a couple of years in terms of your competitive position in the market. I think it's that curiosity, keeping that alive and keeping an open-mindedness about new technology.
Now, keeping that open-mindedness also includes being very receptive to information. Podcasts play an important role in that, articles, blogs, etc. I think that you have a very unique perspective because you've been in the industry for a while and it's kind of transitioned from traditional media to now people can basically be their own channel to a certain extent.
Yeah.
What role do you think podcasts play in educating law firms and legal professionals about that innovation?
So you reminded me that in my last answer, I should have said, listen to my podcast and read my blog.
I tried to tee it up for you, Bob.
You did. You tried to tee me, and I totally let it go. So I got that in. There's a lot of noise out there right now. It's a very interesting time in terms of media because, as you say, everybody can be their own media. Everybody's got a podcast right now. Companies are all putting out their own blogs and newsletters and everything else. There's still a shortage of independent, objective voices trying to look at and talk about some of the technology out there. If you're a law firm, and almost more sort of the mid to smaller firms that don't have the resources, if you're in one of those firms and you're looking to buy new technology or upgrade your technology, it's really hard to find independent reviews of technology or even independent demonstrations of technology. Everything is going to be presented by the company, and companies tend to put the best light on their products and tend to show you canned previews sometimes that maybe aren't always the best. There is an important role served by people such as myself and others who are out there trying to provide an independent lens at what's going on in the legal tech space so that consumers can have maybe a little bit more of an objective perspective on some of what they're thinking about.
Before we get out of here, Bob, you have been providing information for those consumers, educating them on new technology. You've also been the recipient of many awards as well. What's the secret sauce to your longevity in this space?
Boy, I don't know. That's actually a tough question. I mean, part of it is I just keep doing it, and nobody's told me to stop yet. So, for me, I get really excited by it. I'm not a technologist by background at all. I was a journalist and a lawyer, and I couldn't code my way out of a box. But I just find it really exciting, and I'm excited by the potential for enhancing the delivery of legal services, for enhancing the ability of lawyers to better serve their clients. But also, a big part of it for me is I'm excited about the potential for enhancing the experience for people who maybe can't afford high-priced lawyers. A lot of my focus in my writing and podcasting is on access to justice and trying to serve people who just can't get access to legal help. And I think technology has been and will continue to make a huge inroad on helping to make a difference in access to justice. So I just get excited by it all. I really have fun, enjoying following it and keeping at it.
Well, Bob, it's truly been an honor and a pleasure to interview you on Studio A. You have to stop by again. I'm
mine.
I'm gonna hold you to it.
All right.
Thanks again for stopping by.
All right. Well, thanks for talking to me, Will.
Thank you for tuning in to Studio A, your legal tech podcast for all the latest trends shaping the legal industry. You can check us out and tune in on all major streaming platforms. Thanks for tuning in to Studio A. Thanks for listening to Studio A. For more from this episode, visit Adderant.com. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss a beat, and we'll see you next time in Studio A.